had I known that.
Well, I was talked into it recently. I wasn't sure if I want to do the recording or not, but Michael gave us his blessing, so we
Oh man.
so we can go forward there. But a couple house cleaning tips before we get started is first, please stay muted while myself or Michael is presenting. And then if you do have a question, there's two ways you can ask it. One is type it out in the chat box, which is on the kind of the bottom center of your screen. And another way is through the reactions, which is on the center bottom right side of the screen. There's a hands up. You can raise your hand in there. So please do that, and then ask those questions throughout whenever you feel like it. And then I will go ahead and ask Mike if we can stop to answer that question at the time. So if you could stick to those two ways of asking questions, we'd prefer. And then we can also unmute you if there's a follow-up question and so forth. Next, I want to make an announcement. If you look in the chat box, and let me downsize the screen here, there is a file in there on Skills Accelerator. So I just received this today. And what this is BP has done an extensive research to identify the 5 skills that will be crucial to success in the workplace of the future. And they've crafted 5 interactive virtual sessions to help you build and practice each skill. So the first one is on acute emotional intelligence. This will be held on Monday, 22nd of February from 1 to 2 p.m. Central Time. The second one is leveraging change. This is scheduled for Wednesday, the 24th from 5 to 6:15. The third one, learning to unlearn, is Thursday, 25th of February from 5 to 6 p.m. Central Time. The fourth one, partnering with artificial intelligence, is Monday, the 1st March of 2021 from 5 to 6:15. And then the last one is on resilience, which is military personnel. I think we all know a little bit about that resilience. So that is scheduled for the 3rd of March from 5 to 6:15 p.m. Central Time. So you go ahead, if you want to, is download that flyer that is in the chat box already for you. All right. And then at this point, I'd like to introduce you to our keynote speaker for the night of the presentation, Michael LaHa, who will be presenting on navigating the new virtual career exploration during COVID-19. So Mike, if you want, please take it away.
All right, folks, technology check, and we're right where we need to be. So good evening, everyone. Mike LaHa here, giving you a front row seat to my dining room here in Naperville area, Illinois. Nice to meet everyone. I have a presentation in regards to this new virtual environment that we're in, and I think it can definitely benefit us as employers, you as students, and obviously the educational community. So hopefully everybody can see my screen okay as I'm sharing. Thumbs up. Great, thank you. So a little bit about myself. I did serve in the Marine Corps for 5 years. I have worked for this organization about 8 years now. My role is to bring in the next generation of talent into the organization. So interns, college graduates, letting them know about opportunities that we have here in business functions to engineering and everything in between. As we are a large organization, I've hired everyone from East Coast to West Coast, and obviously my favorite being an Illinoisan here, folks from the University of Illinois. So thank you for having me, Dustin and team. I really appreciate that. In my career, I've probably interviewed thousands of people and well over 100,000 different resumes. I've seen it all. I enjoy the outdoors. That's one thing the Marine Corps did not take away from me, is my love of camping. I do have 2 kids who I am a full-time dad with them here at home. So I like to call them my rowdy little coworkers. that I go to the office with here in my dining. So why today, right? Why are we in the session? Obviously, the new virtual world we're in here is new to all of us, not just you as students, but obviously to the employer side. It's definitely had its pluses and minuses as we're almost into a year now. Actually, I've been at home since middle of March, and actually my last event that I went to was there at the University of Illinois doing a speaking engagement. But one perk, however, is that we can reach students from all over the country, as I mentioned, East Coast to West Coast. So obviously, we can hold these sessions very conveniently here through Zoom and other platforms. But the main reason, because of the new technology that's emerging, is because we're all in this post-COVID environment, to where we have to stay safe and healthy. So I encourage everybody to make sure that they're taking care of not just their physical health, but their mental health as well. So obviously, I'd like to make sure that I touch on a couple of points here in this session, because I think it's important as you're moving into almost a year of this virtual environment, you still may have questions, right, on how to navigate certain aspects of your network, of your career, job fairs, things that nature. So I'll be covering each one of these here with you today. First, I want to cover with you, though, is what your personal brand is. What is that, right? So what is personal branding? Why is it valuable? Personal branding is all about recognizing what others are seeing in you and being able to take control of that, so that the message that you're sending out is obviously consistent with your values and goals. So personal branding, it's not about, putting on a facade or trying to be someone you're not. It's about recognizing your own strengths and weaknesses that you have. And obviously, through proper shaping and communication of that, that will support your long-term objectives for you professionally. So a little bit about brands, right? Your brand is not you. It's the shadow you cast, right? It's what others think you are. Someone can be a great person, but they have a personality trait that, or even an attribute that casts a different shadow, right? So alternatively, some people, have a Superman shadow, even if they're, not typically a great person. So each fall, you as University of Illinois students from the university there make a conscious effort, right, to determine how you want to be seen when it comes to recruitment and other employers. You want to brand yourself in a certain way at the career fair, at an info session, social media, right? And if you're successful in that, the aim is obviously to secure that interview or secure that internship, or obviously that full-time role once you graduate. Okay. So now with that, in order to determine what your personal brand is here, you need to ask yourself, what is your purpose in life? I know that sounds a little interesting or cliche, but people with that sense of purpose will definitely stand out more than those without. So this diagram that you have a chance to see here on your screen kind of give you some intersections that kind of make up your purpose in life, right? Now, you may not love what you do, but you might be very skilled at it, right? So if you're good at what you get paid for and you're a professional, it's your profession, right? So the way you get paid to contribute to how the world needs your skills and abilities. You're obviously providing that service on a demand and getting paid for it. It's great. If you're doing it because you feel passionate about what your audience or the world may need, then it's your mission. Give you an example for what I do. I love communicating with people. I love matching talent with opportunity, and I love helping someone out. I couldn't imagine being a tax collector. So one particular challenge for a professional here can when they be excelling at something when it doesn't align with their goals. Obviously, Disney has a sense of purpose, right, to provide a magical experience. So Technology is getting away from us. So this next piece I wanted to chat with you about is tangible versus intangible. Obviously, your appearance versus your personal brand can definitely have a factor in that. How others may see you in regards to your background. So when you're looking at your personal brand, there are some things that you can control. So obviously, the shadow again that you cast can be very important when it comes to appearance or timeliness, showing up for meetings, your email communication. Obviously, when you show up late, it can have a big impact and impression on that. So obviously, you want to make sure that when you're looking at things like timeliness and emails, you're communicating your message, because that way it'll come across, obviously, that you have a detailed agenda, you have an ability to make sure that you get your point across. If you make an offer to help out with something, or you commit to things you can't deliver on, obviously that's losing trust. And perception of your character can obviously be one experience even be ruined or tainted. Once trust is lost, it's definitely hard to get back from folks. So it definitely take a bit to consider if that does happen. So you always want to make sure that you're meeting your deadlines and obviously delivering on what you say you need to do. So obviously, work-life balance is definitely very important, but also too, there's family commitments that may come up. I know it can be a challenge. Again, I'm a single dad with 2 kids at home, so I understand how that aspect may be. But it's also very important to make sure that you have any internal or external resources to meet those family commitments. I definitely think they're very important and do not want to discount those when looking at these tangible pieces versus intangible. Differentiator. I think this is kind of a neat topic because your personal brand can truly be your differentiator. What makes it important when looking for jobs, especially in this virtual setting? Your personal brand is the process by which individuals differentiate themselves by identifying and articulating that, right? A personal brand that a person may have could mean many different things for different people. Think about it as you have to describe yourself in one word. How would you describe that? And then how would others describe it? So, looking at that value proposition, I think is very important when you look at what is your differentiator from the person to your left or to the right. It's very important because at the end of the day, when looking at a job in a virtual setting or an internship, you're having to stand out amongst 1, 2, or 300 different people. Same thing too when it boils down to the interview, when you're just going for a couple of people there at the end of the process. So the virtual world is pretty powerful still in your network, doing volunteer work and other events. You can take your personal brand, as you can see from these points here, to social media, right? Who you are on LinkedIn may be different from who you are on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. Obviously, there's virtual events like this. How do you want others to see yourself? How do you hope to show up, right? Depending on even if you have a background, for example, that I have here, can really be a differentiator for you, can show professionalism. So how do you display that, right? How do you do it on LinkedIn, social media, virtual events, career fairs, or other sessions, right? Here to get you to that end result of an interview or a job. So I'm going to give you some tips here on the next page. So this is kind of some tools, tips, and tricks that I like to look at. So how do you look at this when you first see it, right? Social media. What comes to mind? Obviously, there's 7 different avenues you can follow BP on. Maybe there's 15 different social media platforms that you're on. But I'm going to focus here on LinkedIn because essentially that's definitely something that I'm on at least weekly, almost every other day, if not more frequent, because I think that's a great way. We know companies have a presence on LinkedIn, We know you have a presence essentially on a lot of different platforms. So you want to engage specifically on LinkedIn for professional networking, professional information, because obviously this is a place for you to spread your personal brand professionally. So the first step, pretty straightforward, follow companies that you're interested in. Obviously stay organized within your discipline, but don't be limited to industries. For example, I follow companies outside of oil and gas, but I also follow companies that are competitors of ours. Join up to follow companies that you think you're interested in. Join groups that you may have in your area, whether it be, for example, in the county or in the state or in the area, depending on the labor market that you're in. You may have interests socially and professionally that may mix with a cultural aspect. Definitely explore those. I encourage you folks to have a professional photo on LinkedIn. Very important. To be honest, I know some recruiters who don't even accept a network connection without a professional looking photo. So make sure that you can use that professional headshot if you have one. If not, do like I did. I asked a friend to take my photo in the most perfect light on my perfect hair day, and that's what I have. So I encourage you guys to do that. Encourage.
My quick question.
Yeah.
So I think you brought up a good point with looking at different companies. And that's one of the things I hear with some of our undergrad students more is like they'll hear of a big company like BP or another company and they'll say, well, I have a business degree or I have a degree in even community health, whatever it may be, but they're working on a 4-year degree. What is your advice on that?
So advice on what types of companies they should follow, or
Well, that they
industries?
shouldn't filter themselves to certain companies.
Yes, absolutely not. Even in this virtual environment, a company that's outside of your area or doesn't have any jobs in Illinois, you should absolutely follow them because A, they may offer relocation, yes, in a perfect world, but also two, companies today are going 100% virtual. They don't have to stick to the labor market of what is in their area for talent, nor should you as the student. Believe it or not, BP hires folks in the healthcare industry to be part of our operations across the globe. So if you're in healthcare and interested in traveling, you should absolutely be following BP. I know most of us think of BP as a retail gas station being here from the Midwest. I get it. That's what I thought it was. But when you look at a company's operations, even like GE or BP, they're one big company with a bunch of small different companies in there. So definitely, folks, if you think Baxter or another healthcare company is just strictly healthcare, they need accounting, finance, marketing folks as well. So look for those larger size companies, as they do have the most robust development programs for you as an early career person, but also to have more diverse opportunities for you to go in a healthcare or even a non-healthcare discipline that you may be getting your bachelor's degree. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and just to follow up with that, do you think companies are becoming or more diversified by being more open to accepting people with various backgrounds?
Oh, absolutely. Not just here in the U.S., but outside the U.S., there are government regulations mandating diversity programs. There's a lot of different business resource groups that a company might have. Give you another example. We obviously have a lot of different diversity initiatives, but veterans, we're constantly trying to look for veterans. But there's a huge labor market. You just got to know where to look. I definitely think we do focus a lot on diversity. And there's a lot of great companies who do have those mandates, especially if you're a government contractor, as BP is, as we sell aviation fuel to the military. You have to have a diversity plan involved. So absolutely a big piece for large organizations.
Thank you, Mike.
Awesome. So I covered headshots. Obviously, going back to your differentiator, I do want to talk about how that personal statement, professional summary there at the top of your profile, right below your photo. That is your elevator space or your soapbox speech that you have the ability to kind of stand out, makes you special and different from your peers. This could be, you know, the time you want to brag about yourself, to talk about different accomplishments, or even your career goals. Be mindful. It's like the objective that folks would talk about, you know, you always want to put on a resume. Couple of sentences describing what makes you great. Different accomplishments. Those are key pieces you want to make sure that you have in there. Hey, if it's something special that you do in the community, whether it's organization like volunteering your time for the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, other mentoring or community involvement, put that out, put that down on your profile. You'd be amazed at some of the things that really make a person stand out that hiring managers and recruiters like myself will pull a person into a pool just based upon their community involvement. It's another thing that great companies are doing. So you should do it too. And you can do it in this COVID environment to improve the network. So it obviously speaks volume about yourself when you have that experience. But hey, Mike, I don't have experience, or hey, I've only been in the military. That is experience, folks. You should absolutely put down that, you know, you were an artilleryman in the military, or, you know, a boatsmate in the Navy, or an airman in the Air Force. What we give those veterans, fellow veterans of mine in the military for 4 years, responsibility, teamwork, collaboration, the amount of stress that goes along with that job. Corporate America spends millions and billions of dollars to pay for their employees to have that. You already have that. That's a huge resource that we want to bring into our organization. So you should be putting that down as far as your work experience goes. But even if you had a retail job and you're just starting out, you know, looking for an internship, or just recently graduated college, you should put that down as well. The customer service experience that I gained when I was working at a restaurant, I still use today when I deal with my stakeholders. So it's absolutely important. It's part of who you are and your brand, even in that point of your early career. So definitely encourage you to add that leadership experience from the military, and then obviously any experience you may have that you may see as small in another environment. So look at this. These numbers are pretty mind-boggling when you look at it. And honestly, this information that I put together here is a little bit dated. But, you know, if you don't have a LinkedIn account, I encourage you now to get one, you know, right after this call, because for the professional world, it's the place to be. As you can see from these numbers, there's a significant growth. Obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, at this point, LinkedIn's at 18 million. The numbers that they had, obviously, new per day are pretty intense. So go out there, get your LinkedIn profile. If you already have one, great. Make sure that you add that information I talked about in that previous slide, because as a recruiter, I have a super secret ability to go into a super secret account to be able to find individuals that I'm looking for. I can enter in over 1,000 pieces of search criteria, meaning I'm looking for a person who was in the military. I'm looking for a person who has their MBA, person who lives in Tinley Park, Illinois. I can be specific up to 1,000 pieces to search for someone. So I always hear about looking for a job or trying to find employment stuff. We're out there already looking for those kinds of information gathering pieces on a person, but sometimes people don't always enter it in. So it is very important to make reference back to that note about what to enter into your profile. So start putting your brand in practice, right? Join different LinkedIn groups. I talked a little bit about that, talked about following companies, looking at skills that you have. There's a section there that you really want to make sure that you focus on, very important. Share content, share articles that are professionally linked to what you do. So if you go on my profile, I haven't updated it at all recently, but I share content in regards to what's going on at my organization. I share content as far as jobs available. I'll like or share items that are through schools that I support. That's showing your personal brand. If you were to look on there, you'd see that, hey, he is very much a recruiter. He's sharing content. He's happy about where he works, which is obviously what I hope others to see in what I do. But it also reflects on my behavior for that account. So save what your cat had for dinner for maybe Facebook or Instagram, and let's use that professional information for LinkedIn. So obviously there's a lot of different recruiting engagements that are out there that we are offering as far as a virtual learning series with the Skills Accelerator. Other companies are following suit as well. So make sure you check out company websites that you are interested in. They're offering them. Get your name out there. Obviously, I recognize someone on this call, boiling it down to, their educational background, to where they live, to whatnot. So now we have that connection, right? That is a great way for you to connect with a recruiter on LinkedIn, or maybe a leadership person at an organization, if you can find a common ground to connect. Even better, when you go to these virtual events, you can do that just the same, but also start a real conversation with them. Make sure when you're doing these virtual events, you want to look at, for example, BP. Before you walk up to the virtual career fair, you want to find out what opportunities are available. So that way you can cut right to the chase to Mike at a handshake event or a brazen event that's being put on at the U of I there, and say, hey, Mike, hey, nice to meet you. My name's Paul. I went to your website. I saw you had this great finance opportunity there in Chicago. Can you tell me about it? I'm from Chicago. Oh, Paul, I am too. Boom. Next thing you know, we're talking about Portillo's hot dogs and some of those great things there. So use that ability to then start your brand and build your network at a virtual event. Find out who's going, see if you can connect with them on LinkedIn. That's the great way to engage with employers. We love it when you come to us at a virtual event or at an in-person event and you already have an agenda, you've already researched the organization. Basic information, folks. You don't have to research how many barrels of oil we produce, because to be honest with you, I don't know either. So showing up prepared is that final point. You want to make sure that you're doing that when you engage with each one of these organizations. Consistency, do that for all the folks that you're interested in. Knock those off your list at the virtual career fair. If you have time, then follow up with other organizations, because you might find that hidden gem. You think you may want something in the oil and gas, but you may find something in another industry that maybe has suited your needs. But make sure you go through and prioritize your time. It'll be that much more beneficial in a limited time frame. Companies can chat with you for extended periods, so you definitely want to make sure you're doing that. Now, obviously, interviewing is key, and folks, more and more companies are doing this virtually, so make sure that you're preparing the best you can. Even in a virtual or an in-person setting, I can't stress this enough. Please know your resume. I know we change it up and have it be targeted, for a various position or a various industry or for a various job, but I think it's very important that you should know your relative dates, know the skills and abilities you have, because that again goes back to being prepared. Because I may ask you a question about that last position that you had at XYZ organization. I've had people reach back to the table and go, oh, what did this say? So you want to make sure that you recognize all your accomplishments and responsibilities there. Always want to appear professional, dress for success, dress for the position, that you want, not that you have. So obviously, if it's something with corporate America, I think unless otherwise specified, it's always okay for people to show up in a suit or a nice top of some sort. We are very relaxed here in corporate America now in this virtual environment, but I'm not on the interview stand. If you do have an interview, dress for success. That's my words of encouragement for you. If you have a deadline, so we all know as veterans, the first sergeant tells us to show up at 4 o'clock. We're there at 15 minutes prior. Same thing within regards to a meeting or a virtual event. You want to make sure that you're showing up a few minutes prior to make sure technology is working for you that day, and that you're prepared, you have your notes in front of you, and you're squared away. Practice your elevator speech. Practice reviewing key points that you may want to get across in your personal brand. Again, that much more time you can put into the preparation of an interview or the time at the career fair. That is your personal brand. I want a person who shows they're prepared to work on my team, right? Because if I have a project deadline, what kind of person do you think I want working for? So obviously, a quick research is very important. Don't be afraid if you have an interview on a Tuesday and the recruiter calls you up Friday and says, "Hey, congratulations, you're coming Tuesday." If you can't find that job posting or job description that you had, feel free to email or call back that recruiter and ask for that job description. It may not be available because it came down in the applicant tracking system, but absolutely go ahead and ask for another copy of it, because it'll help you get a little bit intimate, rather than a Google search on the overall stance of the company. So career centers are a great resource, right? So if you know there's a position open at a certain kind of company, right, in the background, if you go to Dustin and say, "Dustin, hey, I got this interview going on there at BP. What do you got?" Well, I can guarantee you, I've encouraged Dustin to have someone give me a call if they ever have a question. So now you just built that network, right? Connecting with me that way. Now you've just reached out and shown how prepared you can be for that interview. Those folks are the things that we want. So again, it's my perception of your brand is really who you are. I know we want to make sure that we secure that interview and secure that career fair successfully. These are the tools, tips, and tricks to do it. I'm out there at the virtual career fairs and I'm having interviews next week. So I encourage you to take note of that information. So for the next slide here, we're going to be talking about, technical pieces, right? Mike, I have a bachelor's degree in business or engineering, but I'm scared of this technical interview. Going back to that job interview, reading that job description, jotting down, some keywords that are there, that's going to help you because you can then research those keywords prior to that Tuesday interview over the weekend there. And if you do get a technical question that states, an acronym you don't understand, well, great, you just did your research on it and you're that much more prepared than the person to your left or to your right. Obviously, researching the company is very important there. Realize, what they may be doing as far as new initiatives go, right? Do you come to BP to come to an interview and know that we're reimagining energy and being more of a green company with, wind, solar, natural gas, that sort of thing? That shows that not only are you looking for a job or an internship, you're looking for this job, this internship at this organization. So that shows a lot about your brand that I think can be very powerful to a recruiting team or a hiring manager who has you in a technical interview or even at a career fair as well. So obviously how you conduct yourself can be very important in that technical interview if it's in a virtual setting, and also too from the standard interview. If you can, try to make sure technology is working in your best interest for those by keeping family members off the PlayStation, resetting your router, right? Unplugging it for 15 seconds and then plugging it back in every other day. I'm told from asking IT folks that works best in making sure you have a smooth internet connection. So you want to limit any kind of technical difficulties or aspects that may come up to throw you off your game when you're talking about skill sets and other experiences that you have. So I encourage you to do that as well as another tool, tip, and trick. But at the end of the day, we know you're a college student. We know you're a veteran. You're not an experienced hire like I may be looking for a person who has 10 plus years experience on another role that I may be recruiting for. I get it. We know we're not hiring someone with vast amount of experience, but I know even with folks in the military experience, that is so valuable already. You have it, you don't even know it. But even if you don't have the military experience, you still have some sort of background in teamwork and collaboration, right? From working on school projects. That's something you want to highlight. You have leadership experience from maybe that time you mentored or led a meeting with one of the clubs or one of the student organizations that you're part of. So if you're not part of those, start doing them now, because that's a great way to network and a great way to build your brand. Any questions so far? Let me hold the microphone for a minute. All right, moving right along. So obviously, there's companies who do group assessments or group interviews. Here at BP, a majority of the interview day, which can be from 8 to 3 that you spend with us, anywhere from 4 to 12 people that day. More than half of what you're doing that day is set in a group setting. I'm 100% virtual. My team's in Houston. Other people I support are East Coast and West Coast. So teamwork and collaboration, being able to work on a team is very important. So part of the interview process is gonna need to be able to show that you can play well in the sandbox, if you know what I mean, right? Can you communicate with respect? Can you make sure that you're very inclusive? So these are some of the things that you want to do. Obviously, you know, you make sure that you listen attentively, be respectful, listen to different perspectives. I'd like to think I'm right a majority of the time, but there's, you know, obviously some better ideas out there that are much better than mine. So listen to those perspectives, because it is not necessarily your idea that's always going to be the greatest. So if you need to, definitely focus on that. Now, obviously, there's a lot of different things that I gave you today in regards to staying connected with BP, but also to staying connected with your brand, staying connected with your virtual engagements, staying connected with your virtual network, staying connected with other organizations in your community. Here are some ways that you can stay connected with us. We have a lot of different, that Dustin had mentioned, the Skills Accelerator. I like to call them virtual learning sessions. But these are tools and sessions that we offer students, not as a great way necessarily to say, hey, yes, BP is great. That's my job. But these sessions that BP offers and other organizations offer, even career services may offer, take advantage of those. Even if you walk away with 10% of what was said, that is an extra 10% that can help you build that brand, build that network, and secure maybe an employment if you're looking for it, or obviously secure an internship. We do have various positions all throughout the year that we are posting. I did check today. We do not have any internship positions posted. They are all filled. Typically, big companies will start that at about the August timeframe, right? We'll start hiring and recruiting in August, September, and October for the following summer. So all my folks who are coming aboard here in May and June were recruited during those prior months. Now, there are still great opportunities out there, folks. You can definitely check out company websites, but here are some websites for us that you can stay connected and stay informed. We have 2 different things that are also coming up that you can see here with the early engagement programs. Go to bp.com, you'll be able to find them. We offer opportunities for freshmen, sophomore, juniors, you name it. And part of those early engagement programs that are focused around business and engineering do have the opportunity for you to apply for a scholarship. We've given out millions of dollars in scholarships. And I don't know about you, but I love free money. And I'm in charge of the scholarship program this year. So there's my plug. And I encourage you not only to get information in those early engagement programs from BP, but other organizations, but then that's a great way then for you to also apply for a scholarship. And what better way to then reach out to the person in regards to that scholarship program and talk about it than who was providing your information session today on branding yourself in a virtual environment. So hopefully everybody got at least 10% of some great information on how to do that, build your brand, be better effective at communicating in a virtual environment in your community and in regards to interviewing and career fairs as well. Any questions? that means I covered everything. I enjoy that. That silence, it's golden. It means I took you on a fabulous journey.
Mike, thank you for the presentation. What are the top problems you see with students coming out of universities as it relates to their brand, if you want to use that as an example, or just in terms of them transitioning into the work world? What are some things that you see over and over again that we might be able to address before they leave here?
So on that note, you go by Reggie, right?
Right, yeah, right.
Okay. So on that note, Reggie, I definitely think there's a differentiator there with, are we talking about students in general, or are we talking about the veteran community? Because I think the veteran community I can definitely speak to that piece. Right?
Yeah, the veteran community.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to say that I've had folks not put their military background, military skills on their resume. I've had them not reach out until they're ready to do so. Part of the TAP class, right, when we left the military, is in that transition assistance program, we were encouraged to start networking and start, process as soon as you were done with this class. And you could be end of active service in 6 months. So I think folks don't take heed of that, and sometimes don't always realize when the great folks at the career services department say, hey, go out there as a freshman, go out there as a sophomore, and start building your brand. Start going to these events and networking with people. I think that is, a missed opportunity for a majority of the veteran community, is that they're looking for a job a month before they graduate or after they graduate. As you saw, a majority of the companies today, Reggie, we're doing recruitment almost a year in advance,
yes,
right, for interns and graduates. So I encourage the veteran community to put that information down on your resume, have it be something the civilians here in recruitment can understand. I know what it means. I love it, but have that non-military veteran look at those keywords or phrases that may be different to understand, so you can translate those to civilian terms. But also to get out there, start doing these different university events, and also to the company events. I know there's a lot of great companies that are doing these kinds of activities now that we're almost a year into this.
right. Okay, that's good.
And at the end of the day, don't be afraid to reach out, folks. Granted, we may not be from the Chicagoland area. We may not be in the same discipline. You're in finance and I'm in HR. But if you're a veteran, I absolutely implore you to reach out to me on LinkedIn. So after this call, after this recording, reach out to me on LinkedIn. If you have a question, ask. Obviously, I may need a day or two depending on what kind of season I'm in. But if there's something I can do question-wise to help you get into this organization that does have strong values and behaviors that we had in the military, I'm absolutely willing to help. I've also had people reach out to me to ask a question about something like salary negotiation or interviewing questions, and it wasn't related to BP. The least I'm going to do is maybe not answer, but I always do, but I may not have the right answer for you. I may direct you where to go. If you don't ask, you may not get the answer. So just ask out there the question that you may have after we connect, and connect with those other individuals who are in HR, who maybe are part of that veteran community. We're very small. I'm the only recruiter here at BP that is a veteran, but there is other veterans within the HR team. So I encourage you to connect with us as well.
Any more questions? Okay, I just want to say too, before I got two final announcements before we wrap up, but as Mike was talking about with networking and going to events, whether they're they're on campus or they're virtual or so forth, one of the benefits of that is, as he explained, about what their hiring schedule looks like. When do they apply for internships? When do the schedule start applying for full-time jobs? And, you know, a lot of companies are in August that start, but not all of them are. So attending events like this and getting to know people, it's advantageous for you to be able to get that knowledge during those events. So Mike, thanks for your presentation tonight. You're amazing as always. It's always great to work with you. So I want to make two quick announcements. Just the follow-up virtual career events we have this semester. We have Google on March 11th, which will be at the same time, 6 to 7 p.m. on the same bat channel. And then on April 8th, we have a virtual career fair that's opened up to not only veterans, but also active duty, Guard, reservists, and dependents. So you should have gotten the flyers for that yesterday for both of those events. So if you know anybody that may be interested, we do ask that you share that within your network of veterans and the military connected students that you're aware of. So, but at this point, if we have no last minute questions, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up. All right. Well, thank you everybody for participating tonight.
Thanks for coming to speak with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Recording is stopping.